So here we go. This is the finished product. Got another motor in here. This is a 107,000 mile engine. I want to go. I'm gonna put this in the header as far as what was going on with the symptoms and why I had to change this motor before you start looking at the teardown and looking at the initial diagnosing. So the cooling system here, what was going on, this is how it looks now. It's perfectly fine. The reservoir is perfectly fine. We got green universal in there. After flushing the system out, driving the car, I had water in there with the Prestone flush. What it'll do, it'll start to accumulate that milky chocolate milk substance. Basically, oil would start to accumulate in the cooling system after a while of driving, and it would just be, it'll be very difficult to flush out. I'm like, maybe I didn't get it all out. Even though I did get majority of it out, it just still kept reoccurring. And I really suspect it to be in the head. Once you start looking at the teardown, I really can't help but to say it's going to be something in the cylinder head causing this issue. Again, the coolant never mixed in the oil. It was always the oil mixing in the coolant, and there wouldn't be no interchange. So I really say it's something probably in the VTEC system here. I still got that core sitting out. I really think it's something within the VTEC. So once the VTEC is active, maybe one of those passages that is going through the cam here, I mean, it's probably cracked and is getting into the cylinder head somehow. But again, I mean, I assume if there can be an exchange there anywhere where there's a passage, then there has to be an equal exchange. So coolant has to mix with the oil has to mix with the coolant. But the car runs perfectly fine now. Took the key out. Yeah, the car runs perfectly fine. There's no more oil mixing in the coolant. Got new gaskets, timed up water pump, everything's new on here, so mom shouldn't have to worry about any type of maintenance. Got the intake tube, it's brand new. So yeah, other than that, this is what I did. Again, I'm for like the 18th time. I'm happy with the replacement. I'm not going to sit there and say I should have changed X, Y, and Z. We got a low mileage motor in here, but it still would have been really nice to figure out what the hell went wrong with the initial motor. But yeah, you'll see the video about the teardown and all the other stuff in the future. But I'm calling it down with this one. All right, take 3, I guess, right? So what's going on with this motor? This is my mom's motor. It came out her 99 Accord. Just to give you the synopsis, really quick. The car experienced symptoms of a head gasket issue. It was oil mixing with the coolant only, and it wasn't vice versa. So the strange thing was, when I pressure tested the oil cooler for the radiator, which is a overlooked thing, there was no obvious cracks or issues with the oil cooler for the transmission. And also, somebody already replaced transmission, so they had an external oil cooler. Still pressure tested it. All right, everything was fine. I pressure tested the cooling system. Everything is fine. Again, there's no oil mixing with there's no coolant mixing with the oil. There's just oil mixing with the coolant. Now, if anybody know how head gaskets operate, how they look, which I'll show that also. I did a cylinder head on a 2.2 while diagnosing this. You'll see how there's no way that the oil can mix. There's no way the coolant
can have oil in it without the coolant mixing with the oil first because of how the head gasket is designed. So coolant, because it has approximately 16 psi in the system, should overcome the drain ports and leak into the oil drain. So let me say that again. So the coolant, because of the pressure, should overcome the drain on the oiling system, which you'll see when I pull this motor apart. It should overcome that and leak back into the oil gallery. So that's what will cause the oil to experience coolant. The thing was, it was the opposite. You know, the car would lose oil, but for some strange reason, it would not have coolant in the oiling system. So when I pull the valve cover off, it shouldn't have anything in it. So my conjecture, well, my assumption, my hypothesis, okay, this is based off of somewhat fact here, is that there's a crack inside the cylinder head or either the block. And when I pull this apart, I try to do it really quick because Eddie is coming by picking up this core unless I keep it for another day, because I want to figure out what the hell went wrong with this engine, because I've never had this happen before. No information about it online. Maybe. Yes, there is, but very little. But I'm going to actually tear this down and see if I can diagnose this. Maybe design something where I can put pressure into the cylinder head, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Flip the head upside down, put pressure into the oil channel or one of the oil veins, and see if it bubbles. Because maybe it might be in the head. I don't see how it could be in the block, but we don't know. Either way, I'm going to start pulling stuff down, taking this harmonic balancer off, and start stripping the timing components off. This is a core as of the current moment. So when you do motor jobs, get your motors, take off every single thing, everything. So you never know what you need. So, and that's what I'm going to do before they get their hands on this. I'm taking off everything. Intake, time belt components, even though I'm replacing all this stuff, harmonic balancer, all this stuff to transfer whatever part is aesthetically unappealing, changing that. Alright, let me get pulling this down, and I'll show portions of it when I start pulling the cylinder head off and we expose the innards of the head gasket and the block mating surface. Alright, 1 second. I had used the Harbor Freight Earthquake to get this off. It worked perfectly fine with 150 psi air pressure. Let's make me a little pile here. Taking off bolts indiscriminately. Gotta get that valve cover off. I should do that. Let me do that when I get this. Take off the crank sensor. I mean, every single thing. Uh-oh. I guess it may look a little difficult. A lot of people haven't done these motors, but I've rebuilt these on plenty of occasions. So I guess it's the equivalent of watching somebody rebuild a transmission. I've done one. That's why I want to do it again, right? Old common 4L60E. Want the water pump? Let's take that off. Let's take off an oil pump too. Why not, right? Let's take everything. I want it all It's gonna be junk pile is gonna be in the junk pile. These bolts. Uh-oh. Screwing up with life. That's not gonna come off because I got the cover on there. Either way, that's fine. I'll leave that alone. I'll leave it alone. I'm not worried about it. Accessory bracket. Coming off. AC bracket coming off. Power steering pump bracket. Whoop. I was about to take the motor in place. That would have been a disaster. No. That would have been the definition of being indiscriminate. I need to pull that off. I really do. I think I got everything. I can drop it now. Put it on a tire. Whoops. Well, whoever put the valve cover on, put it on improperly. We're gonna find out. These tube seals don't look so good. All right, let's see what it looks like. There's no traces of oil. I'm sorry, coolant mixing with oil, and it would definitely show up in the valve cover there. All right, carrying on. That's all from turn. I want that cam gear, I reckon. What I'm gonna do with it though. Let's see if we can get this off. Nope. I know. I'm trying to take it off without having to take off all the sun and stuff. Take it off anyway. Another car coming, I gotta diagnose, so trying to make this as quick as possible. So we got everything off, the brackets in the back off. I know I need to take off that flex plate. Let's start pulling the head off. I'm gonna use my Big Daddy over there. This is what we're gonna use. We're gonna use the 12 point. Let me get some air. Damn it, boy. Alright, so all the embarrassing stuff is done. Me trying to take this off. Loosen these bolts up. I think these torqued like, I think these are torqued at 78 pounds. Something crazy. Man, these things, you got the leverage, boy, I tell you. Long one, right? Got that one loose. Pull this off. Inspect the head gasket. All right. Okay. Here we go. Get her yeah. I think that bolt's off of there. I think it's probably stuck on. There we go. I left one stud in there. Oh boy. I should have got some cardboard. I'm about to make a mess. Damn it. Alright, let's see my mess up. Alright. Sorry about that. So you can see down here on the head gasket where there was the coolant and oil mixture. The head gasket looks really good. I mean, once you look at the diagnosing video, you'll see that I did a good compression test on here, and everything turned out fine. I mean, you can hear that the car sounds real good. I think this right here around the fire ring was only due to the fact of me taking it off. I don't think that's going to be the cause of it. Again, I mean, coolant will be getting in the cylinder there. So the fire rings look really good. I mean, this head gasket probably was replaced before. Probably. What's this right here? Let's look on the back of the head. Let's see where that's going to. So we got the cylinder head here exposed. Let me see how much time I got left. All right, so we got the cylinder head exposed, flipped upside down, of course. This is how the head gasket was sitting on the block. I didn't take any brake cleaner or anything. I just took a rag like I'm doing now and went over it. So my thing is, like, if you look at the bottom here where you got drain ports, there's no way where there will have to be somewhere where there's oil pressure that will cause this head gasket to lose oil over time and go into the coolant. But it has to be somewhere where there isn't a coolant channel. Well, it has to be a coolant channel. So let me see. I don't want to confuse myself, but oil pressure has to be significant, is what I'm saying, versus the pressure of the coolant system. Because this is the thing. Either way, if the oil pressure was low, the interchange would still occur. Like, there would have to be coolant entering. Sorry, I confused myself. So there would have to be coolant still entering the oil. So like when a traditional head gasket blow, you have pressure here in the water channel. Now that pressure will overcome and go into the coolant channel. And when the coolant enters the oil galleries, that'll cause that oil and coolant mix, because the pressure is greater in the coolant system than the return on the oiling system. So it'll go from here where the coolant resides, or collects, flows, however you want to call it, and it'll just venture off into or seep into a channel where the oil drains off because there's no pressure there. So what I'm thinking, there has to be somewhere where pressure is significant in this cylinder head or on the block somewhere where it's insignificant enough to cause that interchange to occur with coolant mixing with the oil. So my thought is the VTEC system, which is, I took the valve off, which is right here. I wonder if under certain conditions when the VTEC activates, because even after I flushed the system out, over time, once I drove the car, it will start to just slowly build up. I wonder if it has to feeding one of these channels here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to, I gotta get one of those little nozzles, the rubber nozzles that allow me to seal this up and administer air pressure. So I'm gonna block the tubes off here. Well, probably might not have to. This is the coolant passage, and there's another one right here in the front where the radiator hose go. So I should be able to block those two off. And I'm gonna put air pressure in here, and I see if I see any bubbling. The oil system on here generally makes around 60, 70 psi at the most, somewhere around about that. So 150 psi should definitely overcome that any type of small crack in this pressure's air pressure. So it should definitely overcome that, and I should start seeing some type of bubbling here. So So let me do that, and let me run to the parts store because I don't have one of those little fancy grommets. Sorry, I ran out of space. All right, so this is where the oil pressure sensor is going to reside here. So there's oil pressure coming through here. But if this was the culprit, and oil was seeping through here and going through here into the coolant, then the interchange still should occur. I mean, and it's likely that the head gasket will seep back here, and oil should be getting on the back of the motor, but that's not the case. So I don't think that's going to be the cause of it. The block down here, I mean, you can look down in there. There's a lot of milkshake substance in there. So there could be something internally compromised with this block. Like one of the where the bolts go, it could be, but I doubt it still. It has to be somewhere where there's pressure from the oiling system. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else had that problem with the knock sensor back there, but luckily I had no problems taking the knock sensor off the new motor. But I digress. So like I said, I'm still going to test the head there. I don't know, man. It's confusing, but intriguing at the same time. Down here inside the VTEC solenoid, there's going to be a drain back in here that goes immediately to the head, and then there's I'm pretty sure one of those ports there go to the cam actuating, and I'm pretty sure one of them is just the inlet for the pressure feed there. All right, let me go to O'Reilly's. I understand this ain't the most scientific way, but I poured water into the water channels here, block the passage off where water's going to go from here, and here in the back, going to the intake. On the side where the VTEC solenoid is, you have a drain back valve, and then you have an inlet, and then you have obviously a passage that at the very bottom where oil comes from here down to the number one, I believe, bore for the head bolt here. So I mean, I was trying to block it off, but I was still just trying to achieve like 70 psi just to see if I see any type of bubbling in the system. Here in the middle is the valve where the VTEC solenoid is activated. You pressurize and you'll see the cam alter. So maybe it's not in the head. I mean, I haven't seen any bubbling or anything. Only thing I really did was, add air in the system here, and then went to that's the mid part, and then I went to the bottom where you can see the air just kind of coming through the number one hole there. So I still didn't see any air coming out the system, but maybe I need to fill it up a little more. Let me try that. All right, fill it up all the way to the brim. Still was no luck. So I don't know, man. I'm kind of lost with this one. Maybe I can go to the block and try something. But I mean, it's kind of getting a little sloppy right now with all the water everywhere and oil, but they don't mix. Let's see if I can do something with the block, because I mean, obviously this head may be okay. You know, things still didn't really make any sense, but let's go to the block. Okay, well, let me see if I can possibly take off the oil pump. Maybe that'll tell me a story or something. I'm just assuming. 'Cause I don't know, man. I'm a little lost. I still doubt that the head gasket is going to be the culprit. I'm going to need a 12 for that. Oh man, take off. I had a brain fart because I forgot you gotta take the oil pan down and take the pickup off. I don't know what the hell I was thinking about. So we got the oil pump loose and pickups removed. You know, I had to get these two bolts down here and then these two, and we can pull it off. And here's a balance shaft. Look at that. Alright. Don't mind those scars on the side. That was me prying, because, like I said, I wasn't thinking. So, alright, carrying on. Still just looking around for any places where oil and coolant could pass through. I mean, the only other orifice where it's going to be pressure is from here, and that's going right there to the oil pump, and from here to the oil pump and back out, and then it gets, I guess, distributed from here back out. And I don't know if there's channels after the filtration system inside of here where, yeah, there it is. There's a little ports through here, so I'm pretty sure it gets distributed through the block from that number one. I think it's number two. I want to say number one, but you get the idea. Right, the bolt hole through this. The channel, the oil channel is going to be in this number two or either number one bolt hole. So, just looking through here, and I mean, just trying to see if I see any cracks. There's nothing. It's nothing really obvious. There's something in there, but I don't know if that's from the block being machined or if that could be our culprit. Let me see if I can clean it off. So if it stays like that, I'll try to see if I can get the camera in there. I guess when the oil gets pumped in here, it goes right down to the outside, the filter on the inside, and then it goes through here up up through here, and then there's another port on the side here. I guess where it gets distributed out through the journals. Let me see if that groove is still in there. I mean, yeah, but I don't think that's something that's going to cause. I don't know if maybe I can. I don't know how it would look me putting a camera and looking at it through a camera, but I might. Well, of course I did it when I look at some of the stuff when I upload some of my videos. Hold on, let me try it. All right, I don't know if it's really probably gonna look a little bootleg, but let me see here. I think that glare is really. Let me see. I don't know if you can see that, but it looked like that little U shape right there. That's the groove I was looking at, but I don't think that's anything, because I think that's just when they machine the bore here. So I don't think that is anything. I'm not gonna really question it too much. I mean that looks pretty smooth inside of there. This is where the pickup is for the oil pump. I don't know, man. I wouldn't put it this way. I wouldn't have felt comfortable putting the head gasket on my mom's car and all that labor and work going down the drain because of me just, there being a issue somewhere that no one has ever figured out, or that could have been picked up. I mean, yeah, I could have got this block, probably pressure tested, took it to the machine shop and had them go through everything, but I mean, again, it was something that was in the oil passages, something that built up oil pressure. Like when I was just saying earlier, when, if the oil gets distributed through this hole here, not through this hole, but let me see. Yeah. Yep. Sorry. Let me correct myself. This is not a hole where the head is retained from the head bolt hole. I mean, just for clarification, just for orientation, is behind it. So I do apologize about that. But so if everything is getting distributed from here, all right. For clarification, I know I keep saying and referring to this as a cylinder head bolt hole. It's not. It's just a orifice where the oil channel is going to reside. So here's the bolt hole. Here's the oil passage, and I just had to clarify that up because I know I kept calling it stud, where the the bore for the head stud. Anyway, but like I said, I'm going to conclude this. I don't know what's wrong with it. I mean, like I said, I could have taken it to the machine shop. They could have pressure tested everything, the block, the head. But again, I mean, this is created by oil pressure somewhere. And that's why I just took the motor apart just to visually inspect everything. Maybe I could see something that was, stick out like a sore thumb. But more than likely, it wouldn't. But it makes sense. It makes sense that wherever this issue lies, it lies somewhere where oil is being required at certain points, but a water channel is not too far in the area. Like I was assuming the VTEC, but at the same time, water is less viscous than oil, so it would make sense for oil to have the coolant mix before the oil would just randomly mix with the coolant. So I don't regret putting a whole nother motor in here by any means. because it could have been something inside the cylinder head. Again, there's not that much information about this that I come across, especially when you start looking at the forums. Identifix really had no solution to it. Maybe somebody else know exactly what causes this, but as far as the teardown and my theories, my hypothesis, I'm lost. I'm not going to invest any money to get the head pressure tested, which would be great. However, I got a lot of other work I got to do, and I know my mom needed a car. I could have really utilized this time to finish swapping cosmetics and getting that motor installed, and I legitimately could have been done. But for the sake of getting all that money as I do on YouTube, I want to make a video. It's like, all right, so I'm kind of out of ideas here, but I do believe that everything that could possibly be the culprit as to why this is occurring with these 2.3s would be in the cylinder head. Where exactly, I don't know. But I don't know, maybe if one of my 100,000 subscribers probably look up in the comment section, or write a comment, maybe something that will challenge my logic, my theory on this, because I would assume it'll be in a place where oil is required under certain conditions, which is, I'm assuming, the VTEC system. And during this operation, oil can then supersede wherever crevice it is needed to seep past whatever obstruction it is in the head to get inside the coolant. But again, it doesn't make any sense, because if the oil can break through and get into the coolant, achieve this task at its viscous rate, then water should be able to do the same thing, because it's thinner. So I'm lost, but I don't regret my decision of putting a lower mileage motor in here. So, and I'll admit I don't know every freaking thing. All right. First time getting my mom's car. It's a 2000 Honda Accord. Got the 2.3 VTEC in here. I guess a little history. Gosh, where do I start? Well, she never brought the car up here to get it repaired, so here it is now. There's, oh shit, wow, blown head gasket. We got this going on in it. Milkshake. It's pretty bad, actually. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make sure that the head gasket is blown, do a compression test, and it seems like there's somebody put a cooler on here, oil cooler is in the front. So I'm gonna make sure that the previous install wasn't due to the fact the transmission cooler wasn't leaking inside of there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to pressurize these oil cooler lines that went to the radiator for the transmission, and I'm going to see if there's any bubbles or any type of air coming through the oil cooler into the cooling system, and that'll explain why we have that milkshake. Why I'm doing that is because there's no oil mixing with the water. There's no water in the oil, so when I took the oil cap off, there's no milkshake in there, or signs of coolant mixing. But I've had that happen before when you take the valve cover off and it's all on one side, or favoring one side. So let me get my pressure tester hooked up here and go from there. All right, we're partly set up. We got my gauge I designed here with the air regulator. I'm going to put my gauge here so I can gauge how much pressure is going there. I'll try to get as much in there as I can. I don't want to break my gauge here, but I'll go to 10 psi, and if I have to go higher, then I'll take the gauge off and block that line off, and then just increase the pressure. So, all right, let's get the air on it. Got a leaky hose. Here we go. I'm gonna take the cap off, and this is gonna work. Got a little pressure in there. I don't see nothing coming out yet. Let's take that off. So I'm gonna take the gauge off, block this off, and see if I can get more air pressure going through it. So real quick, because I want to explode. I mean, this screw is screwed in there pretty well. I just got some bolts in there, something to make a quick block off. But I got about maxed out with air pressure, and there's still no bubbles coming from it, from the cooling system. So, well, the only other thing I'll do is do a compression test, and I'll also add pressure into the light just died out. I'll also add pressure into the chambers here and see if there's any type of bubbling. It's starting to look like there's a blown head gasket here. Alright, so I got the spark plug wires out, and I mean, already I'm really questioning who the hell was working on this car. The valve cover tube still ain't even installed, right? But we all make mistakes though, right? So we're gonna get those plugs out. Driver's worn out, man. These plugs are coming out so easily. Uh-oh, battery didn't die. It's fine. So we got cylinder 1. That's alright, it's not clean. 2. 1 is gonna be the cleaner of the 2. 3. Still looking normal like the other ones. 4. Yeah. The car sounds completely normal when you start it up. So I mean, it could be a possibility the head gasket's blown in a channel where it's just seeping outside the compression ring somewhere. So more than likely, it's probably gonna be the cause of it, unless somebody put oil in the cooling system. But I'm gonna do a compression test to ensure that at least get a general idea of the health of the motor. Normally the fire ring breaks on these and causes the head gasket to blow. I've never seen the head gasket blow outside of the realm of that. I mean, there's no pressure where like there's some type of oil relief or any type of oil pressure. Instead, there's a squirt valve back there, but I ain't never seen the head gasket blow back there. It's an oil control jet back there, that's what it is. But it's still no pressure because it's going to the cylinder head. So I don't understand I think I've had this happen that, you know, people put oil in the cooling system. So if I do a compression test, everything works out. I'm just going to chalk it up as somebody putting oil in the cooling system, and who knows? Somebody know. Still a compression test. All right, cylinder 1. And we got real good compression. It's 180. I really think somebody put oil in the cooling system. I really do. I mean, this motor runs, it sounds really good. I mean, I really don't even need to do a compression test. I mean, really doing this for just 180 almost also. I'm just really doing this just to reassure myself that I got a good ear for things. This motor sounds really good. There's no drop in the cylinder. Who needs a relative compression test when you got years of experience, right? Yep, 180. I think somebody put oil in here. I had when I first started working on cars, I had a 1986 Accord. A guy car I worked on. He did this. He wanted, I think, well, he did admit it. Hey. Promo 180 plus. I think somebody just put oil in the cooling system. I really do. And want to flush this system tomorrow. Put a new radiator in it. Put a new thermostat in it, and should be fine. So it's another day. So we're gonna work on getting this oil out of here, and if possible, pressure testing the cooling system to see if there's possibly any pressure or air going to any type of oil jacket or oil valley, because how the head gasket design on here from yesterday, there's a oil control. Let another Honda. Hold on. All right, so this is 2.2 non-VTEC. However, it's still got the same type of head gasket setup. You got water channels here going around the block, and this is the oil, like a oil squirt valve right here. So there's no way that oil can go from here to here. The compression can't go. There's no oil here in the fire ring that's going to go out into the water. It could be blown from here to here, because this is a drain port. These right here. But the thing is, there's no oil pressure. I've never seen a head gasket blow between here. So my theory is, if I put pressure in the cooling system, it should lose pressure over time, identifying the problem that there's going to be a head gasket leak between the coolant and the oil there. But again, the coolant is likely to get into the oil than the other way around because of the pressure differences. So I think I'm being lied to. I don't think this is a head gasket problem. I really think somebody put oil in here. I've had it happen once before, but people lie. My mom's lying to me. This is so much oil in here, it's ridiculous. All right. Let's get that hose off. All right, we're gonna pull off the bottom radiator hose and the thermostat housing. See what comes out of here. Yeah, so we gotta work on getting that out. I mean, it's just like oil crazy in there. Yeah. I swear somebody had to put oil in here. There's no way around it. How I'm gonna clean this is not gonna be the conventional way, but it has worked. So, firstly, I really need to change the radiator because a lot of it's gonna be contained in the radiator because of the small fins inside of there. And flush out, take the thermostat out. I'm gonna replace the thermostat housing. Just flush what I can with a hose or some clean water, and I'll show you what the kind of chemical I'm gonna use. I went and got the new radiator. Got some. I got an upper hose, but I'm gonna try to ration the lower hose because my place didn't have it in stock, and it wasn't nowhere near as bad as the upper hose. So what I'm gonna do to clean this system out is use rubber power. So yeah, I know it's going to be a lot to disagree with this. However, I mean the damage is already done, and there needs to be some type of way of getting this gunk out. What happens, like I sprayed on a little small surface here, is it's going to break it up, and it's just going to easily be pulverized by the water pump, and at some point in time it'll be pulled into the water. The water molecules will attach to it, and I can easily just drain it out. So I'm gonna get out the big stuff of what I can with the hose. I'm gonna go from the top here, put a hose on there on top, and just put the water hose to it. I'm gonna try to catch as much as I can, but unfortunately I don't know how efficient that's gonna be, and allow the purple power to work and break the stuff down. Also, I'm going to hook up to the line here on the bottom. There's a heater hose that goes to the heater core. I'm going to hook that up, make sure the heat's on. Well, the car's going to be off. Make sure it's going to circulate through the heater core also. Let that settle in there, break down the oil, and do its thing. So once I get as much as I can out, it start looking clear or purple. I'm going to hook everything up, put a new radiator in, leave the thermostat out, put nothing but water in there, put the purple power in there, and let the water pump pulverize all the residual oil in there, break it down, and drain it out, and it should be a lot cleaner and restore it back to new again. This is all the stuff that came out the heater core. So let's see if I can get it back on there with one hand. So I'll just keep spraying it in there until it turns purple, and try to get as much as I can freed up. It's clogged up still. Like I said, this is not at all a clean job. I mean, it's just going to be a freaking mess. So, you know, just be patient with it and keep trying to get everything broken up out of the system. But I never seen a better way of doing this, unless you're the person that decides to just replace every single hose, every single thing on the car. But yeah, this is a cheaper way of doing things. However, at least it'll allow the person to replace things as necessary. I mean, I'm gonna have to replace a few hoses on here that are swollen, like this small one down here. It's a small one down there, swollen, things like that. And hopefully I can ration most of these hoses by getting it out with the purple power. All right, carry on. So I know I have my thoughts about this pressed on complete, but thing is, I don't mind like my second stage of flushing. I got the radiator installed, fans and everything. And I got a new thermostat in there also. This is what we got. I mean, it looks it's a little brown right now, but I got about 98% of it out. So I'm gonna let this run through, drive it around for a while, and when I do my final flush, I'll replace the hoses that I want to replace that are questionable, and do another drain with fresh water, drain it again, and then put antifreeze in it, and we'll be good to go. I mean, everything's circulating like normal. The heat's working properly. Gosh, yeah. So I mean, I know it's gonna be a little questionable as far as putting the purple power in the system, but hell, it's the internet. Anything's done. Nobody else does this stuff. So let me just go back over it. I put the purple power in the system, drain it out, after taking the thermostat out, and just let the system just circulate, break all the stuff down it can. Depending on if you're trying to change the radiator or not, depending on how bad your system is, I can understand if you decide not to change the radiator. I completely understand, but being that this one was so bad, I mean, just look at it. This is the stuff that's in there. I just went ahead and changed it because it's going to really affect the cooling system, and majority of it's caught between the fins there anyway. So got the purple power in there. Take the thermostat out, let everything circulate, get as much as you can. Do the heater core, same thing. You install a new radiator, put the radiator in there, and try to get the system to flush out from the highest point. At least it'll get up in the little crevice and stuff. Put some fresh water in there, probably put some purple power in there and let it circulate, work itself through. Put some Prestone Complete in there, with a Prestone flush in there. I'm going to drive it around for a while, and it's going to take multiple flushes. I mean, hell, you've seen how bad it was. Other than that, get my mom car back in a lot better condition, because I really think that she put oil in it, won't tell me the truth. So either way, it's fixed now. So all right,